everybody, and good Monday morning. Welcome back to No More Mondays, the podcast where we believe you can have a thriving career or business and an amazing life on your terms. And I am your host, Angie Callen. This episode is brought to you by The Modern Coach, my platform for helping coaches grow those thriving businesses that support the lives they want to have. If there's one thing that we've learned on almost 200 episodes of No More Mondays, it's how important core values are to finding real success and fulfillment. And if you're ready to grow with purpose, head on over to themoderncoach.co/core values to grab a free core values exercise that will help you start building the business, career, and life you want. One thing I love most about podcasting is the community that it has helped me build that I probably wouldn't have without this medium. Amazing conversations that have continued well beyond the mic and for years and years and years. And today you are in for a treat and a real life catch up with somebody who's not just a returning guest, but a living, breathing example of what happens when you commit to doing inner work to build something meaningful from it. I'm talking about Dan Capello. He's a coach, speaker, author of Deliberate Evolution and soon to be released Unprocessed Life. And he is here to provide a very unique perspective into why burnout happens and how we can begin to heal from it for good. I love a unique perspective and I love a repeat guest. Dan, welcome back to No More Mondays.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
This is so fun because, in addition to, I was looking back in the history, Dan and I recorded an episode about 2 years ago, which is when the Deliberate Life was about to hit the scenes. And now we are here. And I didn't even realize until we came on that the Unprocessed Life is literally in its rollout phase. So I get to kind of be part of the introduction. And it's so fun to just keep in touch with people and how we continue to evolve. And you have a fantastic story and an awesome perspective on how to live more meaningful. So I'm meaningfully. So I'm glad you're here and I'm glad we get to celebrate the launch and I'm glad we get to help people overcome some burnout.
Yeah.
Dan comes from a really interesting background in the kitchen. He's a chef, which is a high burnout career, high burnout environment. And Dan, we talk a lot about burnout in terms of jobs. And I know for you, that was kind of like a trigger point, the hours, the environment, the expectation. But this new framework kind of gives us a little bit of a different view. So I would love to hear a little bit more about your perspective and what you mean when you say burnout is about the person doing the work and not the work itself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of us, we like as chefs, we're always constantly burned out. We call it seasonal burnout. It's already a predetermined thing you're going to have because you just work so many hours. You're so stressed. There's so many things happening at one time. It's crazy when you have all these parties and we're quite literally moving tons, pallets of food through the kitchen a week and to organize it and get it out. And I worked in some of the best country clubs in Texas and in Arkansas. And it's not like we were just serving kibble. We were actually serving real food made from scratch. It wasn't from a box. And so to get everybody to work, there was always problems because of personal issues. And, HR is full of problems. And it's because we have grade school kids who have driver's license and a job at work. And, that goes back to the identity. They're all stuck in these identity traps from being a rejection overcomer or trauma overcomer, which I am. And, I made a list of them and there's 15 I put on there, but there's 6 on them that are mine. The identity traps, the chameleon. You become whoever you need to be in the situation to make it to please people. So once you get to that, it's like all of that is okay. But when you get to the basics of it, it's really what happens in your body. Because if you show up to work and you're tired, if you're foggy, you don't have the mental capacity to deal with people and you're a leader, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have all these tasks and all these organization, and we had holiday seasons, and then there's the summer with the pool. And so all these things, businesses have their leaders, but they're not taking care of the leaders. They're making sure the leaders have processes and systems, and they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on education. That I had education, but it had nothing to do with personal development. It had to do with learning this and learning that and Windows, whatever, and all this other stuff that they want to help their business. But the problem is if you don't help the people, all the other stuff is not going to matter because you're going to lose people. The retention rate goes down and your cooperation between humans. We don't look at it as a human thing.
Humans still matter. It's my hashtag here on LinkedIn. Humans still matter. And I think that all these systems, processes, technology, AI, whatever we want to call it, has almost like masked that. And one of the things I thought was so interesting when you talked to me about the unprocessed life and kind of introduced me to it was how it is addressing the human, but at a more specific level, the scientific layers that exist below that surface of what we think is just straight up like environment, I'm overworked type burnout. There's different causes here that are actually scientific, from nervous system regulation, trauma responses, as you mentioned, mental load, survival state. And that's where this becomes more about the human in our individual wiring, right? So tell me a little bit more about this like scientific layer underneath the surface level of what we think burnout comes from.
Yeah. So I come from a biochemistry background. I did 5 years and actually dropped out because I couldn't pass the English because I was severely dyslexic. But so I look at systems, and I wrote the book, and it's about the steps of being a leader, but it doesn't talk about being a human that is the leader. I mean, Les Brown said it. His quote that changed my life was, you have to separate who you are from what you do. That's it. And we don't. Our job is our identity. It's like, hey, what do you do? That's the question we ask. It's like, why? Why not? Why are we asking? It's like, how are you feeling today? What are you working on that excites you? You know, it's like, what do you do for a living? How much you make? You know, it's like, how many people you lead? It's like, does it really, you're not talking, that's like drones talking to each other. And the processed life that we live is so controlled now because we have processed foods, we have processed information, we have processed distractions. We're just all processed.
Literally, we are processed in every meaning of the word.
And we're a natural being. So nature doesn't give a crap about, can I say crap? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can say crap.
It doesn't care about business. It doesn't care about anything leadership. It cares about human functions. And if we break down this, and I'm calling it the ecology of leadership, the science part of it, the part that is missing, that missing link is the key to being the best leader possible. Because the whole premise is input is amplified by whatever system there is, and you get output. So if you have dysregulation in your body, you have disease. If you have work is dysregulated and you have all this commotion and you have this bad attitude and all that is amplified even more through your team and through the company. That's what destroys companies. And if you take like AI, if you have someone who's a narcissist and they're a leader and they're using AI, it's going to amplify that narcissism 1,000 times, not 10 times, not 100, 1,000, maybe 10,000.
Yes.
So now the dystopia that's going to happen with AI is not because of AI. It's because of the people using it, the leaders, and the companies aren't helping the leaders be a better human. So all their quirks and all their identity traps and all their problems are amplified with AI. That's going to be the problem.
I'm buzzing. Here's why. The whole separating, it's so strange how you get common themes. That the concept of separating what we do from who we are is like hardcore recurring theme right now, to the point that like literally yesterday, I finished that chapter of my book, teaser, everyone, coming out later this year, and was recording another podcast earlier today where literally that came up. It seems to have since I closed that chapter of the book, every conversation I've had has had some element of this kind of like authenticity challenge that we're all facing with defining ourselves in what we do and who we kind of really are. And, this isn't a talk about AI, but it has very relevance when we're talking about how to be a human, because that is my favorite topic. So much so that, Dan, when I come to Dallas in October, I am speaking at AI Marketing World about how to be a human. And I think that you just hit the nail on the head with how important it is to maintain our human relationships and our our human neutrality and sense of reality, and not the sycophancy that we know ChatGPT wants to give us because it wants to please us so bad. And that whole translation of like, what is a disease and how it can weave down. If you're not a healthy leader, to bring this back to like this leadership lens, leader in life, leader in business, leader of a team, leader has lots of meanings here. If you're not healthy, that is going to trickle down. If you're burnt out, you can't be effective. So my question for you is the burnout fingerprint, right? We all have different tendencies or different reasons that burnout comes. How can we start to know what our fingerprint looks like? What clues should we be looking for to head them off at the pass?
Well, when you get down to that, I mean, let's go to the scientific level. There's two things in play. There's one of them is your biome, your whole body, and it's made up of all these chemicals. It's a chemical reaction, and if you don't have the proper chemicals because you're eating processed foods, then you're not going to create the chemicals that make that human optimal. And if you can't make the human optimal, you can't have presence. And presence is leadership. If you can't be present in mind, body, and spirit, you're not a leader. You're a manager. And there's a huge distinction between the two. A leader leads people by example. A manager makes people do things.
Yeah.
You can force a square peg in a round hole. But can you lead someone to be better as a human, not a cook, not as a tech person, not as a lawyer, but as being a human? Because if companies would concentrate on helping their teams be human, then a lot of their problems would go away. Their ROI would skyrocket because now you have people who are capable, they're present, and they're also more creative because they have all of their hormones, all of their chemicals. Everything is working the way nature meant it, not the way profiteering companies mean it to happen by selling their processed junk. Or the pharma company. One thing I found out is it's amazing. So you have all this bacteria in your gut, and it makes all these chemicals. Well, one of the things it does is it creates a chemical that sends it to the liver, and the liver creates, it's called GLP-1.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of that? It's called Ozempic.
Yep.
So what they did is, instead of worrying about helping people, Yeah, instead of worrying about, telling people if you get healthy, your body will naturally produce it, but they can't copyright it. They can't trademark it. They can't patent it. They can't make money on it. So they created artificial chemical. And as soon as you take it, the problem is the same thing as testosterone. It shuts down your natural system. That's why they say when you start taking Ozempic, you have to keep taking it.
Exactly.
It shuts down that part of your liver that creates the GLP-1. And if you just had a healthy biome, your body would naturally produce the amount that nature meant you to have. But
that does not give everybody out. We are just on a freaking soapbox. We're on a tear today. That doesn't provide the immediate return, the instant gratification that we are all now wired to have, which I think goes back to this whole point of being in healthy process, right? And that change doesn't happen overnight, good, bad, ugly, chemically induced or not. And it's not sustainable if you don't allow for the time to reset and find your own baseline in these like chemical reactions that we want to make sure are firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, nature, if we take care of the fuel and so that's the bio part, and we take care of, we remove the chemicals and like the glycophosphate. Did you know that almost all rice and wheat is sprayed with glycophosphate, not as a weed killer, but to dry it? So they're doing it for profits, but they don't have to include that in the ingredients. And that's why you can go to Europe.
Exactly. And that's why so many people, I have celiac disease. So this is a funny thing to talk about because there's lots of people here who can't eat gluten and or grains because of how we process it, go overseas where the food supply is like a normal amount of agriculture versus a McDonald's level of agriculture, and everything kind of changes. And we're getting caught up in, like, I would say, this food thing, but we're going more into the food thing in a second. I want to make sure we hit the second thing that's going on in our body. So we have this biome, the chemical reaction, and making sure the chemical reaction is like complete, so that as a leader and in life, we can be present. What's the other thing going on there?
So the other part is the identity. It's who we are. Because we're all somebody, and we were somebody before we started being abused or ridiculed or rejected. We were that person, but we had to create a different identity just for us to survive. And the problem is that becomes the default identity that we're stuck with. And that was mine. I was in the performer identity for so long. It's like, if you criticize my food, you criticize me as a person. Yeah, that wasn't the case. I couldn't take criticism. So if you're stuck in this identity trap, you see people all the time, and they're very quick to go off. They become very rude and offended very easily because they're in that identity trap. And the only way to get out of it is to recognize it and then take your values, which most people, I think it was like they did a study, it's like 70 or 80% of CEOs do not have a defined value list. And if you can't make decisions based on your values, then you're just making them willy-nilly. And that's why you have so many problems in your life. You're like, why can't I get a break? It's like, because your values aren't really being used. So you're making decisions based on the wind. It doesn't work.
If you need to work on your values, by the way, themoderncoach.co/core values. Wasn't that a perfect drop at the beginning of the episode?
See, totally we're all come to the same realizations once you start detailing this down. And, I've just put a name to it, the ecology of leadership. It's about being a person. And you can't, if you're not a person, a whole person, a present person, your leadership is going to reflect that.
Yep. Yes. Okay. Oh, this is so fun. I love where this is going. I always remember when we talk, we have so many different parallels for different reasons, but it's like shared perspective, shared challenges and journeys and what we've realized from them. And I like this. This is a completely different way to think about why you're fried, people. Okay. So we've talked about this, let's say the burnout fingerprint was this first thing, and how there's like an actual physical chemistry to it that then gets paired with, let's call it just our social emotional conditioning over time, that starts to impact things. Then you layer on that the values misalignment, and there's the mindset piece that's a completely disconnect in this magic recipe that we're building. And I want to actually now talk about the literal recipe in your ecology of leadership ecosystem, because you also have a kitchen blueprint concept that comes into this, and how we can literally bring food into this equation to improve some of the things. And this is where I love where the chef piece comes back into all of this like personal growth stuff. So talk to me a little bit more about the kitchen blueprint and how that applies both inside and outside of the kitchen in this little picture of ecology we're building.
Right. So now if you look at it, like I was a 300-pound burnt out chef. Now 300 pounds, I'm 6'2". That's a huge person. And that was from all the whatever, my issues. That was the big part. And it was the food I was eating. The food I was eating in my own restaurant was poisoning me. So you have to remove things. It's like we go to Starbucks and they put hot coffee in a plastic lined cup. So now they say, oh, it's BPA free, but it is still a hormone disruptor. And then also you forget there's industrial lubricants that they have to use so the cup comes off the mold. So all this stuff isn't even labeled, but we're eating it. So the first thing you got to do is get rid of your plastics, your styrofoams and storage containers. And it's a process. It's not like you can't do it all. You can't. I do offer a $10,000 thing. I'll come to your house and change everything out.
That's amazing.
That's one of the things that goes with the kitchen blueprint. That is like, if they want to turn their kitchen over in a weekend, I will order the stuff, have it delivered to the house, and help them get rid of it and then donate the food somewhere.
That's literal white glove right there. That's genius.
Yeah. But I mean, it's if somebody has to have it done and they want it done in a weekend and they don't have time and they have the money And the ROI, everybody looks at it as a cost. It's not a cost, it's investment in your health. I mean, what's the ROI? Stop looking at the cost of everything.
Yes.
And look at the car. What's the ROI?
Mm-hmm.
The ROI of your health is better leadership, better presence, healthier kids, a better relationship with your spouse or significant
less
other.
stress. You probably are also, let's look at this as a total straight up metric. You're probably getting more days on the earth.
Yes. See, I'm, everybody wants to live longer, but
or it's higher quality. Maybe it's not necessarily more days, it's better days.
Well, that's what I was about to say. You got your lifespan, but then there's your health span. The ideal health span is that they're like, Bob's gone. Last week I saw him, he was great. It's like, yeah, he died in a week. Wow. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, it's not great, but
yeah, I'd way rather fall off a cliff than like continually slide down a mountain for 20 years.
I always say I'd rather, I want to be eaten like by a great white shark or a bear or fall off the side of a mountain.
Come visit. We can make the bear fantasy come
true.
Yeah,
no joke. But it's like, if you look at this, it's like, do you want your last 15 years or 20 years on this earth with a walker, with someone helping you with all your personal needs? Or do you want to be healthy, whole, enjoy life, go on the cruises, do all this, and be 75 or 80 or 85, and you're still in physical capacity to take care of yourself? That is the unprocessed life, period. It's like we retire.
End of episode. No, I'm kidding. I think what's really important here is this is a different perspective on something I've talked about here before, but I really like this, is regardless of whether you feel like you need to really lean into this unprocessed life because you're burnout. Let's just say you're like, okay, I'm not burnout, so I'm tuning out. Guess what? I'm going to make you tune back in, because if you are leading at any capacity or you own a business, there is a level of stamina that we need to maintain in order to perform the way we need to perform as consistently as we do. Now, nobody's 100%. However, if you can maintain 85 to 90% of the time, it does drive your ROI, even as an entrepreneur. And that's kind of the other side of this coin, is that whether you need to think about, what you're fueling yourself with in order to stave off burnout, or you need it in order to maximize performance, this is a very important conversation, because you are what goes in.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And you don't want to put it on top. Okay. So you had enough energy to get to your day at work. Well, we go home and we have the second best of us to give to the most important people in our family. I always say your first job is at home. Your second job is so you can afford your first job. And we get it mixed up. We give all we can at work, and then we come home and we're on the computer, we're on the phone, we're watching TV, we're getting drunk, whatever. But we're not, because we're burnt out. We've lost the energy level. So if you have that energy level and you go through the day and you get off work and you still have the energy to go home and play with your dog who's laying here snoring, and it's like, that matters, because you come home and your dog hasn't seen you all day. You are the most important person in that dog's life. And Absolutely. He comes home and he wants to play. You're like, not now, I'm tired. It's like, is that fair for the dog? Is it fair for your wife? Is it fair for your kids? It's not.
Is it fair for you? This falls into my, the one of the many hills I will die upon, and hopefully will fall off of and not roll down slowly and painfully, is this idea that we are, society over the last however many hundreds of years has conditioned us to be workhorses, when that isn't really what we're meant to be. This goes back to this whole conflation of what you do and who you are is basically completely blurred now. But I truly believe that we are not meant to live life in the 15 minutes that's left after you get home from work, eat dinner, and put the kids to bed, watch TV, and, fall asleep because you're burnout, tired, exhausted, and gave everything to work. I don't believe that. I believe that we should be designing and defining the life that we want to have, and creating a career, finding a career, or creating a business or job or something that supports it, so that you can put yourself and your family and all those things that you're never going to get back after 65 when you retire first. And I think that this, the literal food and the physical health is a big element to living the full life right now.
Yeah. I mean, presence. That's the ultimate goal, is to be present in your life. How many times we're not present in our own life? I mean, I used to use 4 or 5 cups of coffee in the morning to get me going, and then a bottle of wine to get me stop me. And that's just like, that is how many leaders live their lives behind the scenes. It's crazy.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we've talked about all these different little, let's say, pieces of this equation or this recipe, if we just want to keep the kitchen thing going, that really build this ecology or this ecosystem of leadership, of life, however you want to apply this. What does it look like or even feel like when you finally achieve the alignment? You've experienced it. What's it look and feel like?
Well, I just turned 60, and I feel better at 60.
No, you did not.
Than I do at 30.
Yeah.
Because I was burnt out already. I was already destroying my body with the processed life. And all those chemical reactions were making me tired and hard. And, there was a couple of times where I lost a lot of weight and then gained more back. That happens to us so many times. It's because we go on a thing. It's like, I wanted to go to Philmont with my son. And we spent 10 days or 12 days hiking. We did 128 miles in 10 days in the high country in New Mexico. I had to get in shape for that. So I had a reason. But as soon as that was over, my goal was set. It was gone. I didn't have a North Star. And, I did the Spartan race, and it's like, I did the Spartan race and then COVID hit and I couldn't do it anymore. So I put on 20 more pounds, but I'm still 50 pounds from 300. So that's, you got to take your wins and that's been 4 years. So,
well, and it's also proportionally, it's also healthier, right?
Yeah.
You're not about, I thought yeah. I probably am healthier and younger feeling now than when I was 10 or 15 years younger. So that's one of the things that I appreciate. And I think why you and I stand on this soapbox out there, it feels preachy, but there's a reason. And it's because it totally changed our lives and the quality of everything therein and the ability to be way more present. I love that message.
Yeah. No, I have tons of energy and I feel good. I do my sauna, I do this. I only have 2 cups of coffee, but there's all these things I do in my life that I've built in with the organics and the non-plastics and all these things. And I see the effects of it. And the effect of it is my lifespan and my health span are going to be pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And that's the goal of life, because it's a rigged game. Nobody gets out alive. You can't.
Very true. Yeah. We're all ultimately living Hunger Games, people, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And you would be very happy to know, Dan, that we are good little Colorado hippies with our reusable plastic bags. No more Glad bags around here and all the glass containers. So I'm a full-on adopter. Sorry, I'm not going to pay you 10 grand to come do it for me. But in case someone out there wants you to, how's that for a good segue? Where does everybody out there find you, learn more about the unprocessed life, the deliberate evolution that pairs with it, and all your good stuff? How do we find you?
The best way, I'm on Facebook and Instagram as the Leader Reset. I'm on, if you really want to get into it, LinkedIn is where I concentrate most of my posts and my information. And then I've just launched my new website. It was deliberateevolution.co, but now it is the unprocessedlife.org. And that's where you can find the reset, the blueprint, and deliberate evolution, the deliberate leader blueprint.
Love it. Easiest way to just hop on over to Dan's profile if you're watching or listening here on LinkedIn, because we are connected and essentially comment on each other's stuff every single day, not because we're in a pod, but just because we agree we're shouting into the void together is what we're doing. And so it's been so fun to revisit this. And I want to remind you all out there, burnout isn't just about your job. It is about the internal ecosystems and the leadership style you're practicing in life and work every single day. You start to revisit that, you start to look at that closely, you start to make changes, and everything is going to shift. So Dan, here's my final little piece of wisdom I'd love for you to give everybody out there. You've clearly done a lot of reflection, invention, over the years, and I love how vulnerable you are in sharing it. So I am wondering, I'm going to challenge you to really reflect. What's something that you can say is true about your life now that would have seemed impossible or even ridiculous if I'd have said it to you the first time we talked?
Wow, that's a good one. Really, I think my relationship with my wife. I mean, I call it entrainment. It's like the clocks that sit on the thing that start swinging together. It's like I don't tell people what to do. That's not what it is. I hold a mirror up. So now if my wife watches, it's like the other day, it was kind of funny because she asked me about the gut thing after like hearing me talk about it for a year. And then, so I've got her started on it. And then she's like, I'm eating yogurt that has inulin in it and all these other things. And then she's like, why do you do that? What's in it? Maybe I need to eat that. So it's like, people don't care what you say. What was that? Yeah. They don't care. They don't care what you say. They watch what you would do.
Actions speak louder than words. It's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah. So that whole part now is like I've evolved, and that's it. Since I started this, I have deliberate evolution. That's Dan. Yeah. And I want everybody to do that. If your relationship's the problem, take ownership and do something for yourself because you're doing it for others.
Yeah. Modeling the behavior that you want applies in more places in life than just children. You'd be surprised where that comes, and also how you change your own routines and habits. And so, excellent sign off. The mirror. I think the mirror is the little message there. And are you out there willing to look into one? Dan Capello, thank you so much for challenging us and making us think about our overall well-being and how that does trickle into every part of where we are and how we show up.
Cool. It was great being here. Good seeing you again.
Yay.
Thank you.
We love Dan. Go tune into everything he's doing. Teaser, by the way, not teaser, celebration. This is actually launch day of the Unprocessed Life. So we stumbled into that when we started this morning. And so there you go. You get to be part of this. You get to be early adopters. If you are feeling out of sync or stuck in burnout, go check out Dan's stuff. Go download the core values exercise at themoderncoach.co/core values. Whatever it is that helps you get clear on who you are. And that is the first step to having a life where you don't have to worry about burnout. That's it for this week's episode of No More Mondays. I am so grateful that you spent your Monday morning with me. If you haven't heard, we have a new midweek momentum mini drop that comes out every Wednesday afternoon to help you with a little inspiration to push through the week. So check that out this Wednesday, and I will see you next Monday for a full episode of No More Mondays podcast. Have a great week, everybody.